take a breath, everybody, and let's just fill up. How about another one? Yeah. And gently close your eyes. And let this next breath bring you right into the center of your being. And then just to stay there, breathing softly, letting your consciousness follow your breath. And with each breath, invite in this energy that's here. The sacredness of this room, this place, this family. And breathe that in as you are a part of the sacredness, this room and this family. And let yourself say yes to that inside. Yes, I am. I am that I am. I am here, and I am here to receive in the space of the all-knowing and the love that is here, that is supported and nurtured here, and that is given to us in many different ways. And so we receive that together as one large, breathing, beautiful family of love.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I sit again at the Temple of Wisdom in Delphi University. The university is known for the pure metaphysical teaching. And I will tell you this, that through the Akash of Marshall and Patricia, they remembered something, and I'll talk about it later, even tonight. Not through the brain, but another way, they remembered something, and that was the original core teaching wheel of Lemuria. Applying that to modern days, nothing much changed. And that was what is taught here in this place and in this temple of wisdom. A part of it resides. The wood resounds with their voices and their energies and remembers this teaching. It is carried yet today by their children and their staff. And they know it. And they're remembering it. And to the best of their ability, these core, pure love teachings can be carried on, untouched, untarnished, and beautiful. I am in this place that I often visit, and it changes the way we channel and what we channel. And the reason is this: even the elements are one with consciousness on this planet. And the more of these things are realized and the healings that occur in places like this, on this campus, the more powerful these truths become. And in the power of the truth, it goes literally into the crystalline grid, into the carpet and the wood, the intent of the builder, and it remains here. If it were possible for you to come into this place late at night on your own, there would be activity, and you'd feel it. And you could stand seemingly all alone here, and you might even hear the voices of those who built it. It is sacred by design, beautiful, and it continues. Through free choice of those stewards, it remains pure. And so when we come to a place like this that's all warmed up and ready to go, the channelings sometimes are a bit different. These midday channels are often about those who sit in the chairs and what they bring here. Channeling is unique to every single human being who channels. Absolutely. There is no manual that says this is what it should be, this is what it should sound like. There instead is a manual of love, of purity, of potential, of possibility, of opening the door to the higher self. And when that door is open, some will channel that which is their sacredness. Their own higher self will come forward, help guide their lives. Sometimes it will speak to others, sometimes only to them. Profound channels. Sometimes another entity, if you wish to call it that, an energy, will come in. That's what happened to my partner. Some would say, well, what if my partner had never said yes? What if he liked his career and liked his man brain and didn't want to wander into that which was odd and unusual? And the answer is one that is practical but real. There are others who would have said yes, and this would have happened with someone else. Because as Kryon, I will tell you I'm here for the shift, and there's nothing that would have stopped my coming. Because humanity is ready, through channeling, to hear truth. And the truth is this: you are born magnificent. And now the magnificence starts to show. And in that you discover yourself. All of the tools you said you didn't have, all of the things that perhaps you were never taught exist. You start to be shown what they are, what they might mean, what the energy feels like. For those who have never done it, and most of you truly have not, it's like children who must be shown slowly how things feel when they're correct. All of you learn to read. Can you remember the day when you realized you were reading and the synapse in your brain started to click over? And the words that you were being taught and you struggled with started to flow. And inside there might have even been a little euphoria. Even if you didn't tell your mom or your dad, the little euphoria that said, I'm doing it. I'm reading. This is the example. Tools that you are taught that are already there. Dear ones, you should have been remembering to read. That is starting to happen now with infants. Coming out of the womb, literally. Within a very short amount of time, starting to remember things that they had before, instead of having to be taught them yet again. But you remember what that felt like. This is the same process as you walk through the teaching of channeling in particular, of knowledge, that you start at some level to click into a greater truth. And then you start realizing this isn't simply facts and figures. It isn't simply knowledge of energy. It's real. And you start to hook in to tools that are already there. That's what is shown in this place. That healing is possible through the individual, through others. It is simply an energy of understanding what is there. Channeling is understanding what is there. The wisdom that are in these chairs is amazing. For every single one of you, there is no holdout here, has been here before. There are a group of very old souls in front of me among this group who have been here since the beginning original teachings, who are starting to awaken to those teachings and realizing they're in this university. Ringing true in every word. They're learning to hook in to energies they haven't hooked into before. And they start realizing they are in full control of their lives. There are those who would object. They say, Kryon, I'm having a hard time. I don't even want to tell people what I'm doing because they judge me. They say, well, obviously you've been captured by a cult. Because what you believe is so odd and so strange, it just cannot be true. We wish you the best, but I don't think we're going to go to lunch anymore. I'm having a hard time holding my own among these things. I really don't know what to do. Every single one of you, I want you to take a trip with me. If you hadn't noticed before, the walls of this place are covered with pictures. And the pictures are often designs, and sometimes they're of people. Sometimes they are masters of the past. They represent cultures that are far, far away, and some which are yours. In a round building, there is no bias. The east-west is not really known as you sit in here. And in the roundness, like the circle of the Lemurian teaching wheel, there is no bias that would say this was right, this is wrong. Even the dais is disguised, and the altar. And the real center is where the crystals are, where the fulcrum is. All this to say that there doesn't seem to be a central doctrine or a prophet in the building. It seems to be instead a celebration of all that is. So what is it trying to say to the one who might walk in here who has no idea what they do here? They may be confused, and they may say, well, they've just thrown it all together in hopes that one of them is right. And that is the linear thinker who will walk into a metaphysical bookstore and be so confused and leave and say they have no idea of truth. Not understanding that the core truth is on all the walls. Because the core truth goes beyond that which is doctrinal. It goes through the ages, through the prophets. The core truth comes from the center of every single human being, represented in that which is the higher self. The oneness of all things is the master of wisdom. This little trip I want to take you on is one where I want you to meet a number of masters. Pretend for a moment that on a grassy hillside, they're all there. I'm not going to give their names because you'll recognize them by their faces, perhaps, by their cultures, perhaps, by what you've taught, perhaps. And they're the masters of the ages. Some of them called prophets. Much scripture from all cultures has been written. And there they stand. You have to wait for a moment because right at the moment they're in a circle holding hands. And then they break the hands and they look at you and they hold them wide open as to say, why don't you come? Come and listen. Now, right there at this juncture, I want to ask you something. Are they strange? Are you going to run the other way because they're a cult? And the answer is no. Because no matter who you are on this planet, no matter what spiritual system you may have, they're all standing there together. You may be motivated to one more than another because you've been taught more about the one than the other. But they're all equal. All have had an impact on this planet that is profound and still is. And they all stand there with their hands open, in peace, smiling, as to say, why don't you come over? Why don't you sit down and just listen for a moment? And you do, because you're not afraid. You're not afraid because of what you know about one of them, or maybe two of them, or maybe all of them. What you know is they are filled with love. That they are so safe, that they've done miracle after miracle, that they love humanity. Beautiful, they all are. Their face shining like they had their own energy of the sun itself. And you feel so good, and you say, I can hardly believe that I could be here. And then you sit at their feet. And then something happens which startles all of you. They turn and face each other. They do, in their own circle. And they walk toward a center. And they all meld into a light. And the light has no form, but it has a voice. And you begin to listen to the voice, and you realize it's the voice of all of them at once. And you start to listen to that which they have to say. And they start telling you of your magnificence on the planet. They start telling you how blessed you are to be in this shift. They impart to you healing and love and information and ask you to take it back to your workplace, to endure the slings and the arrows of those who would call you inappropriate, and not to respond in kind. They would tell you that your compassion is king, and that if you have it for everyone you see, they will feel it. Eventually, will leave you alone. Some will feel it and be attracted to you because you carry what the masters are talking about. And that light, you can stare at that light. And it's so beautiful. Then the light seems to break apart and simply fly toward each one of you. And you're startled until you realize it's gone inside of you. And then you got it. And then you get it. And why you're there. It's a metaphor of the shift of humanity, where this central source of all the masters that ever lived will fly into the chest of each one of you and live there until the last day. That's your resource. That's the magnificence. And you'll pick yourself up and you'll come back to a place like this and sit and start asking you the questions, what's next? How can I do this? How can I tell anybody what's happened or what I feel? And then you remember their voices. In ultimate wisdom, you remember what they would say in this place, anywhere. In all the wisdom they could say is, you do not have to say anything. Just be the creator. Be compassionate. Look at every single individual you come in contact with and see first the God inside them. Not how they're acting, not what their problems are, not the names they may call you. Or perhaps in the ones who would come to you and are so needy, don't take on their issues. Instead, you are compassionate and you fill them with light. You are light transmitters, lighthouses as you walk, and you can be silent and carry an impact. And then they say, well, where did you learn something like this? You can tell them about a university on the hill. You can tell them about a temple of wisdom. You can tell them about the country you came from, or the dreams you had, or the visions that you're enjoying. You can tell them that it's real. Everything they learned about the love of God anywhere is real, but it's bigger than they were taught. That it lives in everyone and is ready to be received with a new tool set on this planet. That's wisdom. Tonight we'll tell you a little more about the wisdom of the age, of some of the things that may be happening or not happening, about the recalibration of what the word wisdom itself may mean. Meanwhile, I just gave you the core truth of the magnificence of who you are, that it's allied with every master who ever lived, as represented in this room, partially. Go from this place, even now, differently than you came, and listen again to these words, that you might be refreshed with the knowledge that you didn't expect. That is your legacy. Also, to awaken at this time and carry something you didn't expect, called your own magnificence. And so it is.